Well, hey friends, it's Starry, and yes, I'm on a homestead, and I want to talk about chickens today. You know, there's a lot of videos out there about raising chickens, and I just want to give some real quick tips, super quick tips. If you're really thinking about, can I do this? Is this something for me? I've got a whole library of raising chickens. We've raised them from little itty bitty, and they were egg laying chickens, and we also raised meat birds. And may be asking, should I look into getting meat birds? Should I look into getting egg layers? And, is it worth it for a homestead? So one of the reasons why we decided to go with the egg laying chickens and the meat birds was, number one, we didn't want homestead. And chickens really are so easy to take care of. We had a variety. We had Barred Rock and we had some Rhode Island Reds. They were very hardy. If you're going to be looking at buying chickens, just go to your local feed store, or and that's where we got it. We got it at a local feed store. We didn't order them in the mail. Well, I'm kind of leery about ordering chicks in the mail, but your best bet is usually to go through a local feed store. Or if you know people who have chickens and they're, they've got a broody hen, and buy the chickens from them. The thing I love about chickens is they are hardy. If you buy the right breed for the right climate, they're very tolerant of super cold weather, but they do need a coop. And coops, you don't need a lot of space for a coop. You can fit a lot of chickens in a very small area. And I know their coop over here it's not too big. And if you see some of my older videos, you'll see the coop that we had built. And you just want to make sure that they have a place that's properly ventilated. They have a good roost. The one thing that I don't like about this coop is the roost. What they used is a piece of wood, and I don't like that because they really need something to grab onto, like a round dowel. So I wouldn't go with something like that. In fact, the chickens the other night I found roosting up in here. The other thing is, you see they used insulation. Be very cautious about using insulation because the chickens will pick the insulation and they'll get very, very sick. So, but this is actually a pretty nice size coop. I believe they have maybe about 10 chickens, and so easily it can fit in here. And I'm just showing you this coop. Every coop is a little bit different. A lot of the coops, like this one, probably need a little bit of work. It needs to be cleaned up. I try to keep my coop super clean, but I just wanted to show you what, a coop looks like. They also have these buckets. This is kind of a novel idea. They use buckets for their eggs. And what we did is we had hen boxes or egg boxes, but I always had a lot of straw in them. Now they don't use any straw, and that just must be a personal when you're designing your coop, you just want to make sure that you have enough area for all the chickens. You want to make sure you have some hen boxes for the eggs. I use lots and lots of straw. If you use styrofoam or any type of insulation, you got to make sure that you cover it up because they will pick it apart. So, and then prop is really important. Now, they have a little tiny fenced-in area here, and if you remember from my homestead, I also had a fenced-in area. And that's really nice because when you are gone and you don't want them free-ranging, it's safe. I like the location here because it's a lot of trees here, so there's cover, and you always got to be very aware from above. That seemed to be always the most the highest risk for chickens. It just seemed like it was always the predators from above. Now, and no matter where you live, you need to figure out what predators are around. If there's foxes, if there's coyotes, neighbors' dogs can be a real concern. So when you're getting your chickens, think about where you're going to put that coop. Think about how close to the house it's going to be or how far it's going to be from the house. Accessing it in the winter time. Hauling water. You should always have a fresh source of water. In fact, their water container here, they went through a lot of water today. And on their piece of property here, they have a spigot right outside, which is very close to the hen house or the chicken coop. And that's just a smart idea because you don't want to be hauling water. On our homestead, we had right on the property a pond, and that's where we'd get our water. So the most important thing is that they always have fresh water And you can see these chickens are thirsty because I haven't been here all day. I filled them up in the morning, and now they're going to need some more. The nice thing is, when you go to your feed store, you go online, getting the proper equipment is going to be really important too. I love these plastic feeders. They're really light and they hold a lot of water. You can actually make your own feeders. I did mine out of a big 5-gallon bucket. You can go on YouTube and find out how to do the water feeders. But they really need fresh water. And one of my pet peeves is, and when I go to people's chicken houses, there's always feces in the water. And it drives me up the wall because, you know what, chickens need to be cared for. They shouldn't be drinking their water with feces. Now I know chickens are, you'll see, they're very, very messy. They're going to scratch up everything, and they're going to poop on everything. And that includes pooping in their water, and that's why you're going to have to really make sure that you check that water all the time. You know, I had just a good system because I had it hanging up off the ground, so the poop couldn't get into the water. And over here in their homestead, they keep the water on the ground, so when I come here, there's feces, you know, chicken poop in their water. So I would suggest making sure you have some type of hanging system for your water. And the chicken scratch is not too big a deal, but like they feed their chickens inside the little coop. Well, they poop inside the coop, so now they're eating you know, the chicken scratch and their food where the poop is. So just be very mindful of how you do that. Chickens love scrap, and you'll have to learn what scrap they should have and what. When it comes to the food, chickens will eat just about anything. They are carnivores, and during the winter time, actually deer roadkill, and I would feed it to the chickens. They love their meat. They love fish. When we would go fishing, we'd have chicken carcasses, the skins, and they would love the fish. This is that were kind of rotting, and not rotting, but you know, they're a little overripe, and you see they love the pears. So they like fruits and they like just about everything, but you have to be very careful about the foods that you put in them, because some foods are toxic. And I'll leave a list of foods that are toxic, but they also love their bugs. Now the other thing, as I said, they can be very destructive. So wherever you put your coop, and if you're going to free range them, just know that they can cause a lot of damage to the area. Now coop, you can see where they've been scratching, you know. They scratch that and they scratch all this. This area doesn't have any grass, so they don't have to worry about it. So it's a great place to free range their chickens. But on our old homestead, when I was up in Idaho, I actually had the coop up against a very, you know, it was cut into the mountain. And the problem with that, there was already erosion. It was an exposed cliff. So the chickens started, you know, doing their thing, and before I knew it, all of that land up above and below started eroding, and it looked awful. They killed everything, all the vegetation, everything. Now they're really great in the garden at the end of the season because, you know, they will get in there and they'll pick everything clean and they'll deposit their droppings, and it's really good fertilizer. So chickens can become really good composters for you. And I did an article quite a while back on Mother Earth News about how chickens are composters. And then also some advice on how to overwinter your chickens, and some tricks of the trade, especially if you don't have use of electricity, and how to do that off-grid. Just some really great ideas. So I'll try to post a link to that old video. But anything I wanted to talk about real quickly is just meat birds. Meat birds are really easy to raise. They're super, super easy to raise, and they grow very, very quickly. The thing with our meat birds, when we did have meat birds, is I raised them the unconventional way, which means most people will raise their meat birds in a confined area. They get very fat very quickly. They end up breaking their legs, and it's I didn't focus on feeding them an enormous amount of food. What I focused on was healthy, happy meat birds. And even though they were being raised to be harvested, I wanted them to have a quality life. And they did. My meat birds were very healthy. They would run all over. They were free ranged, and meat birds can be free ranged. They love to peck around just like every other chicken. And they also had a confined, enclosed area. I had a very nice coop for them. I didn't have a roost for them because they get really big, and roosting just wasn't an option. But they just lay down at night and they go to sleep. They always had a very good life. Now the thing with raising the meat birds is you have to remember you're going to have to harvest them, and that can be a very difficult process. I got attached to the meat birds, and although when we harvested them it was very humane, and we did it very efficiently and effectively, it was hard. So we only had meat birds for 2 years, and after that we said no more, no more. But it is a great source of healthy meat if you're a meat eater. And I don't eat meat I stopped eating meat a long time ago just because we have to be very careful with our flesh foods, and it does cause an acidic environment, and that protein source really isn't the best protein source. But if you choose to eat any type of meat, the chicken farm raised is a great organic option. So I don't know. I'm just going off the top of my head. And again, I have a great library of raising chickens. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment box. But is now the time to buy chickens? Yes, now the time is to buy chickens. I really do believe that things are not just changing very quickly, but it seems like people have their head in the clouds because of this pandemic and everything, and they're not paying attention to what's really coming up. And there's a storm coming up very quickly, and we really need to be focused on preparation, the sluggard. And we've been told that we should prepare spiritually, absolutely spiritually. That's the number one preparation. But after that, God does not want us to be sluggards. He wants us to be laborers for him. That includes laborers for his gospel message, but also for ourselves and our families and our neighbors, because if you can't take care of yourself and others, then you're going to perish. And I hate to, that's what we're looking at. So be prepared and get some chickens.